the orientation fixed on the phone. Let's go try connecting it to the car. Oops. Now it's not. Now the little clip thing isn't working. Come on now, buddy. Why are you not? Why don't you love me? Well, I thought I had everything figured out. So now this. How do I? Yeah, I've got this little clip thing here to let me mount the phone. And then I pushed the thing to put the phone in, and now it's stuck. Well, that's not a very good start to this, is it? Well, I think at least the orientation is right, so let's I'm gonna go prop this up real quick. You guys go see the parking lot of the gas station while I try to. How do I make you? There we go. Oh. All right, so let's try this again without me screwing up the phone. There we go. All right. So let's try this again. So we're going to take a relaxing drive. I've got to go and drop some stuff off in Oklahoma City. And I don't know how the audio is going to work out. But let's go drive to Oklahoma City together and let's talk about world events, because I haven't done that in a while. And can I turn, there we go. Let's see if we can do that. My lens all messed up. Let's see if this works out. All right, so here we go. Let's try this as a kind of a test run to see if we can live stream from the car and not have it sideways. So how's everybody doing tonight? I just wrapped up at the office. I've got to go drive some stuff up to my friend's house, and I thought I'd try this cell phone out again. Lots been going on. I've been thinking about it, and it's like everybody just sort of, the world's getting really crazy. You know, you've got Pakistan and India, and they still hate each other. It looked like they were gonna get into a big old fight. Now I guess they're chilling out because, well, anybody with half a brain knows that India would win. They've got 1 billion more people than Pakistan does, but they both have nukes. So would they really win, or would they just blow each other up and then drag us into World War III? They'd probably blow each other up. So I guess they found an excuse to chill out a little bit. We'll see if that works. Israel and Gaza still hate each other. The whole Middle East still hates each other. So they're all fighting still. Apparently we got one of the hostages back. So that's good. I guess the story goes that Trump had a conversation with Hamas and they decided to release this kid, this 20-something-year-old kid. So I guess he was an American Israeli dual citizenship. So that's good. So maybe things aren't so bad. Let's see what else is going on. Ukraine and Russia are still blowing each other up. Apparently they're going to have some sort of peace talk in Istanbul on Thursday. I don't see how that works out well, because the Ukrainian position and the Russian position are too far apart. And I think if Zelensky agrees to the Russian demands, I think whoever's running his government behind the scenes would probably execute him. And Putin's not going to agree to Zelensky's demands. And I'm not sure if there's a middle ground that they can agree on, because, well, there's kind of that civil war thing going on, and Russia's on one side and we're supporting the other side, and I don't think it's going to end well for Ukraine. if they do come to some sort of peace terms, it's going to look an awful lot like what Russia was always asking for to begin with, that the areas that Russia controls are going to be owned by Russia, and that they're going to demilitarize Ukraine, and you'll probably see some sort of a regime change. I don't see how the Zelensky government survives. There's too much bad blood right now, and I don't think the Ukrainian people are going to vote him back into office anyway. I think he's going to try and get the hell out of there if he's smart. But I don't know where he'd go. And if they don't come to some sort of peace agreement, which I think is the more likely outcome, then what's going to happen next? I think Russia's going to just keep on grinding away. And we'll probably keep throwing money after Ukraine and just getting it all blown up. And then at some point, the American people are going to be more concerned about deporting, illegals and kicking out all the assholes in government. That, there's just not a lot of stomach for what's going on. So it's going to basically be Europe, or some parts of Europe and Ukraine versus Russia. And regardless of what happens, I think Ukraine's going to come out on the short end. There's an interesting video I watched a week or two ago. It was Patrick Lancaster. I don't know if you guys know who Patrick Lancaster is. He's an American who does a lot of war reporting. I think he's currently in India, or in the Kashmir region, reporting on that conflict. But a couple weeks ago, he was in Ukraine somewhere, and he was talking to a Ukrainian history teacher who is allied with the Russian side of things, or you could say that he's on the eastern Ukrainian side of the conflict and the Russians are allied with him. It depends on your point of view. And he was talking like they've got thousands of Ukrainian soldiers who've defected away from the Ukrainian military to form this battalion to overthrow the government, and just kick Zelensky and all the Bandera type people out. So I have a feeling that even if there is some sort of peace, I think you're going to see a lot of internal conflict still inside of Ukraine. So I don't think that's going to wrap up anytime soon. I think it's just going to keep being messy. A lot of people are going to die because Eastern Europeans are very steadfast in their convictions. Let's put it that way. So I don't see either side backing down. Let's see. I think crypto's going to be doing good. I'm very optimistic about crypto over the long term. Short term, it's kind of bumpy, and I'm too busy trying to expand my business to buy up crypto, although I wish I had the extra money to buy. I think that for the more established cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that, I think that they're going to, in the long run, become really valuable. I think that the meme coins and altcoins, a lot of those are probably just trash. But, Trump's been talking about doing a national strategic crypto reserve. And I think that's a good idea. I'm not sure if Trump knows why it's a good idea. I think that he has probably one of his tech buddies probably whispering in his ear, hey, now's the time to do it. Maybe Elon's going to get Trump to buy a bunch of Dogecoin. That would be really funny. Actually, Dogecoin might do well. I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for Dogecoin, even though it's a meme coin. But I think that Bitcoin's going to be worth a lot of money at some point. Probably Ethereum also. I don't know about a lot of the others. It just depends. And it's important whenever talking about crypto to understand the difference between a decentralized cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or a central bank digital currency like, the digital dollar, the digital yuan. I think a lot of governments, especially European and Asian governments, want to do, well, the Europeans and China, the globalist governments, let's put it that way, The globalist governments and the UNs wants centralized digital currency because they can track people's purchases easier and control the people. And generally, the more anarchist and libertarian type people want decentralized crypto because they don't want to be at the behest of a government that they probably don't like. So I think long term, I think you're going to see decentralized crypto do well because you're basically betting against central governments, big governments. And because big government historically has always sucked, I think decentralized crypto is going to do well. Apparently there's a pause on the tariffs and trade war between US and China. And that's probably a good thing. I think that as much as I would like to see the US long-term decouple from China, and I would like to see us bring all the advanced manufacturing to the Western Hemisphere, ideally in America, but maybe that's not always possible. But I'm a big Monroe Doctrine kind of guy. I think that we should control the Western Hemisphere and let everybody else fuck off in the rest of the world and just, let them do their thing. I think that instead of spending tens of trillions of dollars in forever wars overseas, we could have used this money to invest in Central and South America, blow up the drug cartels, and take care of our own backyard and make the Western Hemisphere awesome. But there's too much of the big centralized bank money, still running out of Europe, so I don't see that necessarily happening. But I do think that the trade wars are going to kind of chill out for a bit. And I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. I know that a lot of stuff is made in China, but not as much as people think, really. Because China's getting more expensive to produce in. You've got Vietnam and Indonesia and places like that, India, that are all more willing to pimp themselves out at a cheaper price. So I think that you're going to see the really cheap goods coming out of non-Chinese countries. And a lot of agriculture, this light's pink. There we go. A lot of agriculture is in South America and Central America. So I think that we're not as dependent on China as they are on us. So I think that things are going to chill out. There's going to be some rough spots. The rare earth metals, China has a monopoly on that because they made a bunch of deals with African slave mines and globalist investors to basically take advantage of kids in Africa to go extract the rare earth minerals and then process them in China. And the government in China, I believe, subsidizes rare earth mineral processing, and that's why it's hard for anybody else to compete. It's not that we can't process minerals ourselves, it's just the Chinese do it cheaper, because if they subsidize the key aspect of modern technology, then they have a monopoly and can control really global economy. And a lot of this is based off a conversation I had with the ambassador from China a long time ago, back when I was in college. I got to meet him as part of David Bourne's political science class, and that was super cool. Kind of scary conversation, but the Chinese are very serious and they're looking to do their mercantile thing. I think that it's likely that we'll come to some sort of agreement. So I wouldn't panic over it. And if we don't, then we'll have kind of a suck year, and then we'll kind of find other ways to do things. It'll be all right. Let's see. They're still blowing up each other down on the southern border. The drug cartels are all, they're kind of figuring out the drone strike thing from Ukraine. So they're still doing bad things down there. I don't think that we've really marched in with our military hard. We're just kind of shooting back at them whenever they cause trouble. For the most part, I think the border's chilled out a bit. But south of the border, I know it's pretty rough. At one point, the Trump admin was offering letters of marque to go and reprisal for people to go down there and basically rob the cartels. I love the idea, and I think it's hilarious. I don't personally think any of you guys should do it because the cartels are really good at killing people and everybody that you know, and it probably would not end well. But I'm sure there's some crazy motherfuckers out there, army of rednecks who want to get rich, who'd have no problem knocking over some cartel guys for money. Local dirt bike group. Look at them go. So, Mexico's kind of a mess. And I think it's going to be a mess for the foreseeable future because the Mexican government's just so caught up, in their corruption and being run by the cartels. There's not really a whole lot of anything we can do about it. Unless we want to just start blasting people, which is probably what's eventually going to happen. Now I kind of want a motorcycle. I don't know about doing wheelies, but I had a motorcycle for about 30 minutes once. My neighbor, back when I lived in the OU apartments, my neighbor was getting rid of his, he'd got himself a new fancy motorcycle, and he had this old little cheap Honda that he gave me because he didn't need it anymore. And I walked it over to the gas station, I gassed it up, and as I was riding it back to the house, I got pulled over a block away from my apartment, and the cops took it away from me because I didn't have insurance on it yet because I'd just gotten it that day. And they wouldn't let me walk over to my car to show them my car insurance. And this is back before you had smartphones. You could pull up your insurance on your smartphone. So there wasn't a whole lot I could do. So I had a motorcycle for about 30 minutes. It was a lot of fun to ride. And then that was it. But yeah, I think Mexico's going to be kind of a mess. We'd have to basically invade and take over the government and kill all the cartels to really clean that place out, and I don't think we're going to do that. And a lot of the cartels are probably tied up with our intelligence agencies anyway. I'm sure the American government's got something to blame about that whole situation down there, because a lot of bad things in the world end up being our fault for doing something that we didn't think was going to go sideways. As far as other world events, I've heard that Britain had kind of an interesting election. Apparently, all their local elections started kicking out both the Liberals and the Conservatives, and they're all voting in Nigel Farage's party for all these local offices. And that just kind of shows how pissed off the Brits are with all the stabby going on over there. And as bad as we have it here with all the mass migration, it's a lot worse in Europe. When I was in England, 9 years ago now, it was amazing walking through Londonistan that there were very few actual British people. It was pretty much all Muslims from Pakistan mostly. And a bunch of Romanians. The Romanians all wore New York Yankees hats, which was kind of cool. The Romanians were really cool. But no, the Brits apparently are starting to have enough of it. And all the naughty things that are happening. Because, immigration's great when people assimilate. But depending on your culture and depending on the people you're bringing in, you can only assimilate so many people so quickly. And for the most part, up until recently, America's done a pretty good job bringing in people at a rate where we can assimilate. But Europe just went way overboard. And you have all these ethnic enclaves in Europe where people haven't really meshed together with a common culture. And even though it's been a while since I've been to England, I'm told by my friends there that it's gotten a lot worse. When I was in Greece, and when was the last time I was in Greece? It was a while back. It wasn't so bad where I was at, but you had definitely a lot of people on the beaches trying to peddle goods, and they were obviously not Greek, and they didn't speak Greek, they didn't speak English either. And they were selling, like sunglasses and, beach accessories, things like that. But apparently in some of the islands just gotten overwhelmed. And and there's a difference between a few people who are trying to assimilate and trying to work and start a business and do something like that versus just, essentially an invasion. So I think long term, Europe's either fucked or they're going to have some sort of revolution, civil war. There's something spicy is going to happen in Europe in my lifetime, because you can only displace a people so much before they revolt. And a lot of our modern governments like to push things too far, and they don't really represent the people. They represent their special interests and their donors. And that seems to be very apparent, when traveling abroad. Now, Eastern Europe is maybe a little bit different. Those guys are kind of based. And while they have population problems and birth rate problems, they're trying to home grow their own people, more of their own people, rather than bring in outsiders. Because Eastern Europe, they suffered under communism, and they're a little bit more resilient, I think, because of their recent bad experiences. Communism is a living memory for many of the people there. And I don't think they trust Western Europe that much. They tend to be more conservative, they tend to be more religious, and I don't think they want any of whatever the West is selling. So I think Eastern Europe's going to be okay, but I think Western Europe's going to have some problems long term. So I wouldn't necessarily buy property in Western Europe. I'd wait for the Civil War and then go buy the dip. I know this guy, I met him on an airplane once, and we kept up over Facebook and phone calls occasionally over the years. And he ended up buying a lot of property in Ukraine after the war started because it was really cheap, and the way he figured it was either Ukraine's going to win, in which case the property value will go up, or Russia's going to win, in which case the property value is going to go up, but at some point the war is going to stop. That's a really optimistic way to look at an awful situation. So look for the little opportunities out there. I think America's going to be okay. I think we've got a bumpy ride. I think Trump's going to kind of bumble through whatever he's doing. I think that I don't want to say it's going to be more of the same, as his first term. And I think it's certainly going to be better than Biden, because Biden was a train wreck, and Kamala was kind of a laughing hyena. I don't think that would have gone well either. Sometimes you got just a bunch of bad options. I think Trump will just kind of bumble through, and I don't know how well I don't think he's going to solve the Ukraine war thing, but he probably won't get us into any new wars. He seems to be pretty hesitant about us getting into a fight with Iran, so that's good. And I think he'll bully his way through the trade, through the trade conflicts and trade wars, because, fixing the trade discrepancies, there we go. The trade imbalances, that's something we got to deal with. But the bigger thing is we got to bring manufacturing back home. And whether he's successful or not, I think at least he's trying in the right direction to bring manufacturing back home. And Biden, for to some extent, was trying to do that too. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Biden himself wasn't doing it. I'm sure one of his advisors told him to. But, when he was trying to get the chip manufacturers to bring the factories to America before Taiwan gets taken over, that's at least a step in the right direction. And my understanding with these tariffs and stuff is that some of these smaller companies, like smaller manufacturing companies like Whirlpool and whatnot, have reported big sales increases now that they're price competitive against Chinese goods again. And you hear a lot of stories about auto manufacturing coming back to America. So, you know, I'm a little bit optimistic about that. Anyway, I guess my general take on world events is I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think we're having World War III. And I think whatever civil war we're supposed to have here in America, I think is largely going to be an administrative war where, you know, it's going to be lawsuits and it's going to be political infighting among the various political parties. I don't think you're going to see like mass revolution in the street because everybody has too much to lose. So I would say just same advice as always. Minimize your expenses, keep your head down, keep earning that money. Work a side gig just to try and have some independence. And invest in yourself and stuff that you're good at. Because ultimately you're your own best investment. Anyway, I'm about to pull over here, so I'm going to go wrap this up. Mostly I just wanted to test and see how the camera worked if I have the cell phone sideways. I think I solved that. There's a button on YouTube that I push apparently. I'll be home later and I'll probably do some gaming tonight. I don't know what exactly yet. I'll do something. But I'll figure something out. And maybe MechWarrior, maybe Dreadnoughts, who knows. We'll see how much energy I have. But anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And I will catch you guys probably in an hour or two when I get home. All right, goodbye.